Oh, Dallas fans, I'm feeling for you, but I think you need to start blaming the man on top for all the problems that you have. We're hearing a lot about the rookie quarterbacks, but let me ask you, are any of these guys really going to turn out to be NFL starting quarterbacks? And baseball, baseball. You should have listened to us a long time ago. That and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who is so old he was alive before Batman was a twinkle in Bob Kane's eye, my dad, Tim.
Did you wear that shirt just for a Batman joke?
100%. Yeah, 100%. March of 1938, Detective 27.
Yeah, and if you were a kid then,
Which you were.
I was not.
You're right.
Your
You were an adult at that point.
Your grandfather was part of an adult, but he loved comics, but he would only get the insides of comic books.
Yeah, you know why they did that?
Yeah, so the pharmacists could double dip and get their money back.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, the reason they did that for comic books is because in order to sell comics in pharmacies, they made a deal with these pharmacies to say, whatever you don't sell, rip off the top cover, send it back to us, and we'll give you your money back. And they literally decided we're going to not only sell these and profit off these, but we're going to rip off the cover, then give it to the kids, and then send them back and double dip.
Which is why there's so few Detective 27, Action Number 1.
Well, they have them, but I think they're all covered. I don't know if they have one without the cover ripped off.
They've got a couple of them.
Do they?
There's a few. But that's why they're worth so much money.
Yeah. Which is another story altogether.
Which I would love to have. Okay, you've been doing trivia on me the last few weeks. I'm going to do trivia for you.
Okay.
Two things happened in 1941. Now, remember, 1941 was right before we got into World War II, so every player was there.
Yeah, it would have been the last season before, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Two things happened in that year, both hitting related. What were they? They've never happened since.
Is that Ted Williams hitting 400?
Ted Williams hitting 400.
Okay. Oh, this was the video you sent me. I actually watched this one. It was DiMaggio's 56 game hitting streak.
There you go.
I actually watched a video you sent me.
Yeah, and I sent it to you late at night too, which
I watched it in the morning. Well, your text message was, you have to watch this.
Yeah, but I still didn't think you still never watch when I send you something.
I watched this one, though.
There was a great interview between Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio. Ted Williams talking about how Joe DiMaggio is the greatest player ever, which up to that time, no question he was. And Joe DiMaggio talking about Ted Williams being the greatest hitter he'd ever seen, which is also true. And Ted Williams may be the greatest hitter in the game ever for having an eye.
Probably.
He could actually see the seams on the ball as they were coming. They said that about Tony Gwynn, too. They had like 20/10 eyesight, which is just
Well, it makes sense
ridiculous.
why Ted Williams was a fighter pilot.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you had to have amazing vision back then to be a fighter pilot.
He was a fighter pilot in World War II and the Korean War.
I didn't know he fought in the Korean War, too.
Yes, he did. Yep.
That's crazy. Here's my question to you about Joe DiMaggio. If he didn't have that 56 game hitting streak, would he be lost to history?
No, he's still in the top 10 greatest players to ever play the game.
You sure?
Yeah.
Because you see play like Ty Cobb is starting to be lost to history. Very few people in my generation know who he is now.
Which is sad.
You're starting to see Warren Spahn, greatest left-handed pitcher of all time. He is definitely
He's gone.
being lost to history. Eddie Matthews, nobody knows who Eddie Matthews
is.
is.
Why I keep getting angry about guys like Bonds. We used to compare. We used to have conversations. When I was a kid, we'd be talking about, was Mike Schmidt better than Eddie Matthews? Or
the 90s was the most exciting baseball had ever been, at least in a long time. You know what baseball needs to do? Bring back steroids. It was much more exciting.
No, they don't. What they need to do, and we're going to talk about it in a bit, is get pitchers to pitch again instead of just throw. But I want to talk about somebody else right now in regard to pitching. He's having an unbelievable year with only half his skills.
Is it Showtime?
No, it's Ohtani.
Yeah,
not Showtime.
Showtime Ohtani.
Yeah, fine. I don't like the nickname. He's Shohei.
Okay. Well, because you're old.
88.
How do you hate nicknames? You grew up in the land of nicknames.
I did.
When you were growing up. People had the coolest nicknames of all time, and you hate Showtime Ohtani? Come on.
That's true because we had the kid for Robin Yount, which, by the way, before we get into Ohtani, there's a new documentary coming out that I can't wait to watch, and you should watch it too, all about the 82 Brewers.
Why? Is the title The Team That Never Won Anything? I mean,
Raleigh doesn't get hurt, they win.
what is with you with the Rowley Fingers thing? I'm tired of it.
That's all
He
I
got
got.
hurt,
Yes.
and they had another guy.
No, they didn't.
You went to Game 7. No more. No more if Rowley Fingers didn't get hurt. No more. I'm tired of it. Every single person that watches this show is tired of it.
Everybody loves the 82 Brewers. They were a team of the greatest personalities assembled during that time. I mean, you had guys, Gorman Thomas, you had
Really?
Pete Vukovich. Yes.
Cool.
Fun guys.
You know what the Brewers seem to be, having trouble with?
Winning
Cardinals.
Yeah. We have been the nail in that comparison. But anyways, that's coming out.
Okay, here's another one. Just in honor of you, if you're making this documentary and listening, in honor of my father, name it If Rowley Fingers Didn't Get Hurt. That should be the title of the documentary. And just focus on the fact, if Rowley Fingers didn't get hurt, that's all you should talk about. What if Rowley Fingers didn't get hurt? And he can watch it on repeat. You'll make an old man's day. It'll be like his World War II documentary. It'll just be on television 24/7. See, if Rowley Fingers didn't get hurt, now you see it there. They're talking about it.
I really don't like you. I'm going to start talking about Shohei Ohtani again. 39 home runs, 88 RBIs. My question to you is, next season when he's healthy again, should he go back to the mound?
No.
Yes.
No.
Absolutely.
Why? He's having his second best statistical hitting season of his career.
Yeah. And the first one he had, he was still pitching.
It'll probably end up being his best statistical season. He has 39 home runs right now. His most is 44, which was last year.
Mm-hmm. And he's got over a month to go.
And I don't think he didn't pitch the second half of the season.
No, he got hurt.
So my point, his hitting stats go up as he doesn't pitch.
Ohtani to baseball, and not only to baseball, but to himself, he is a pitcher and a hitter. He will do both.
He did both.
And he's going to continue.
Title. He pitched 5 years.
He's going to come back and pitch again.
I would never pitch again. I think that's the stupidest thing you could do. I've changed my opinion on this because I didn't believe that earlier in the season. I was like, he's going to come back and pitch. And I've completely changed my mind on that. He shouldn't pitch again.
He should pitch again.
He wants to pitch. Like, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. If you want to pitch, pitch. I'm all for it. But why would you go back to pitching? You are playing out of your mind just being a hitter. Babe Ruth stopped pitching. Granted, he never pitched in real baseball. But when he stopped
in 1931, so stop that. He did
for an inning.
Doesn't matter. He pitched in fly ball era.
And it was a look at this sideshow. Babe Ruth is pitching again.
Dead ball era he still had to get everybody out. Anyways, Ohtani, of course, should come back and pitch because he could do something nobody else could. He wants to be known as the greatest player to ever lived.
He already is.
He is not. We had this argument. He got hurt. He's still several years from being even in the conversation.
Okay, but he doesn't need to pitch anymore for that.
Yeah, he does.
He doesn't. Okay, then I don't want to hear your Babe Ruth bullshit for the rest of my life.
I want to see
if
it.
That's your conversation.
No.
Babe Ruth didn't even pitch real baseball. And
Look,
you say he was a pitcher and a hitter. And all you traditionalists out there listening, I don't want to hear it because he ruined it for you by saying he has to pitch more to be the greatest player of all time. Babe Ruth never pitched in the live ball era.
Oh,
and
my
I hear
God.
it all the time. Shohei Ohtani was the best pitcher in live ball era for 5 years.
Babe Ruth also
so if he goes on to hit,
Babe Ruth saved baseball.
Okay, Ohtani's on pace to do it too. People are paying more attention to baseball than they ever have before.
And because of the fact that pitching has gotten ruined in the last 2 years, that we're going to talk about in a second, Ohtani needs to come back and pitch because he's one of the few guys who, when he gets into a game, actually goes and tries to pitch the distance.
I understand that.
He knows how to pitch.
But you hurt your elbow.
Second time, actually. This is his second Tommy
That's what
John.
I'm saying.
So that's why he's had it. That's why he had the second Tommy John. He wants to pitch again.
I get it. Well, he also needed it because,
it hurt.
That's a pretty painful thing to have. Ulnar nerve is a big thing for your arm.
It's a tendon. It's not the nerve.
The tendon, whatever. I'm not a doctor. I don't even pretend to be one on TV. But whatever it is, his elbow's jacked up. And what causes it to jack up is consistent motion like that. Why would you risk it anymore? Just go and be the greatest hitter of all time.
No, he wants to pitch because, and I will admit that if he goes through his career and has outstanding pitching stats, do I ever think he's going to get to 714, 755? No, I don't.
Good. He's on pace. Look at his home runs the last few years. He's been, since 2021, 46, 34, 44, 39, which is going to be more now. I mean, that's Hank Aaron's statistics.
It's exactly Hank Aaron's, but Hank Aaron did it for 24 years?
Something like that.
So Ohtani would have to do
no, because he had broken it. That's not true.
He did in 74. He retired in 75, at the end of 75.
Okay, then yeah.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
And he came up in 53.
But still, he could go that way, especially with the way he trains and the health nutrition that's there now. I mean, he could go for that long.
He could play into his 40s, and probably, I would love it.
I would have him focus completely. I mean, you're talking Judge could get there too. And he just focused on hitting. Just have him focus on hitting now. There's no need to come back and pitch. He has nothing to prove.
Ohtani needs to pitch for 5 more years, and then he can just hit.
Why?
Because he's good, and the team can use him, and he will help the team. He wants to win championships. He can do that
as a
two
hitter.
Ways. He can also do it as a pitcher.
But there's no why. What happens if all of a sudden he gets hurt pitching and it starts to affect his hitting? The fact that this didn't affect his hitting is a miracle in and of itself.
Leave my selfish nature alone. I want to see the man pitch.
But there's no reason for him to come back. The risk-reward ratio here doesn't make a difference anymore. He's already got his big contract, and now he can just go be a hitter.
I think he's still going to come back and pitch.
The Dodgers didn't pay him to pitch.
Of course they did.
No, they didn't. They paid him to draw people to the stands and to have him hit.
To draw people and to see somebody do something that hasn't been done in 100 years and
he did it.
Never has been done.
He did it. Yeah, never been done. Babe Ruth didn't pitch in real baseball.
Well, Babe Ruth wasn't a hitter when he was. I mean,
yes, he was.
He was a hitter, but he wasn't putting up the huge numbers he did in live ball.
Nobody was.
He doubled most. He had more home runs than almost every other team
as
in the
a pitcher
league combined.
I mean, to be fair, he hit 20 home runs in the dead ball era, which broke the record for the first time. And by the way, he broke it 2 other times previously with 15 and 12. My numbers could be wrong. Don't yell at me in the comments about that.
But he could also still pitch, and he still had to get guys out no matter what era it was.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, then he turned to hitting and became a monster. Let Shohei turn to hitting and just become a monster. He's focusing on rehabbing right now to come back to pitching.
Yes.
And he's still putting up these numbers.
Which is just...
Imagine if he just said, forget it, I'm just going to focus on hitting, the numbers that he could put up.
I wonder if Babe Ruth played today with all the training and he actually did take care of himself. He
would have drank himself out of the league.
Maybe. But if he did and had all the training and he was dedicated, I wonder if he could have done what Shohei does, and then nobody knows.
Babe Ruth never would have survived in today's game because his attitude wouldn't have survived today's game.
Probably right. He ate hot dogs and there were no...
Pierre was a womanizer. He would be all over the news. I mean, Broadway Joe wouldn't have survived today. Can you imagine how they would have tainted Broadway Joe in today's media?
I am so glad I grew up in an era before phones.
Babe Ruth never... I mean, if you talk about him in the 80s, yeah, he would have been just as good. Maybe.
Who knows?
Because today, no way he survives in today's.
If he would have been, I mean, Mickey Mantle drank himself out of baseball.
He did. He got hurt in a bar.
Yeah, with Billy Martin.
Different time, man.
Different time. Much different time. Well, it's the same time as the Rat Pack. However, let's talk about something else related to pitching in baseball.
Okay.
Rob Manfred came out and said, we're going to have new rules. We want our pitchers to go minimum 6 innings.
Yeah. I love it.
I do too. It's a dumb rule.
So here's the rule that he's talking about. Rob Manfred in baseball had a rule that they put out there that says starting pitchers must go a minimum of 6 innings or at least throw 100 pitches. They can be pulled if they've given up 4 more earned runs, specifically earned runs. So I don't know if they mean just runs in general, but they said earned runs specifically, which means errors don't count in this situation. So earned runs, or unless he gets injured. What I do like about the stipulation on this more than anything is if the pitcher is injured, he must go on the injured list to avoid manipulation, which just means the dude misses one start.
Right.
That's all that means for a pitcher.
But I mean, I like the fact that Manfred has finally acknowledged what we've been saying forever.
Yeah.
That guys like Craig Counsell have ruined baseball by having pitchers no longer pitch. They just throw.
You know who's been saying that forever? This show.
Yes.
They should have been listening to us a long time ago. Now, I still like my rule,
which is
you can only change out your pitcher once during play. So in between innings, you can switch as many times as you want, but you can only do it once during play, barring injury. And again, I said you have to put him on the injury list if that happens.
Here's the problem, though. I like our rule. However, it's not going to affect, and guys like Counsell will still pull the guys out even after. And I'm sorry, these guys are 6'2", 6'3", 225. They can go longer than 100 pitches.
You have, though, with this is it's going to take a generation of baseball players to get used to this again.
Oh, yeah.
Because the problem is, and the Arizona Diamondbacks GM made a comment to this, is you're going to have to teach people how to pitch again.
Duh.
You're going to have that stuff held back because right now it's all about velocity.
Yep.
How fast can you throw that baseball? You're going to have to stretch guys out again. They're going to have to start saving stuff. Fergie Jenkins was famous for this. Fergie Jenkins said, I always held stuff back because I knew I'd need my pitches in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning to get people out.
Fergie was notorious for giving up a one-run home run in the first or second inning.
Always.
Because he was throwing fastballs. He wasn't showing them everything.
Because you also had to hold back because you had to face that rotation a third time. And if you're facing rotation a third time, you better have some tricks up your sleeve that they haven't seen before.
Wait a minute. In other words, you had to pitch.
It's getting back to pitching. Manfred said it best. These are the stars of our game. We want to have people on the mound so people actually watch for the people on the mound. What has been said on this show?
You think he watches our show?
For 3 years now, we've been saying that. That was our first conversation on this show.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
That was our very first show, was talking about the fact that starting pitchers don't exist anymore, and that is ruining the game. It's the player that touches the ball the most that is your star.
And for those of you who are now saying, no, the hitters are, really, in football, it's the quarterback. In baseball, it is, in fact,
it's the person that touches the ball the most.
Right.
It's the person that touches the ball the most. In soccer, it's the people that score because they touch the ball the most in the most important parts of that game. It's forever the person that touches the ball the most is the star. A hitter can't be a star. He's in the game for an eighth of the game.
Well, that's not true. He can be a star. Aaron Judge is a star.
In a different sense.
In a different sense.
He's not the star of your league, nor should he be. He's one of the stars, but he should not be the premier stars. When I was growing up, the pitcher was the star. It was the Greg Maddux, the Randy Johnson, the Roger Clemens.
And
those were the guys you tuned in to watch.
And when I was growing up, it was the Tom Seavers, the Jim Palmers, the Nolan Ryans.
Those were the guys you watched because you were going to see something special.
Yes, because Nolan Ryan, he threw harder than anybody in the league, maybe harder than anybody ever. But that wasn't his only thing. He also had one of the best 12-6 curveballs in the history of the game.
Right, and he set it up. And you made a very specific comment there. He threw harder than anybody else in the game. That's not faster than anybody else in the game.
He threw a very heavy ball.
And for those of you that aren't baseball fans, a heavy ball is harder to hit than a fast ball. Because here's the thing, Aldrich Chapman, who was with the Cubs, the Reds, now with the Yankees, he can throw 106 miles per hour. The problem is you get around on that thing's leaving at 130 miles per hour.
And then major league players, 106 miles an hour, they can get around on that. And the faster that ball comes in,
I don't know. He's slowing down, though.
Granted, it's hard to hit it, but they can hit 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. They do it all the time.
He's not with the Yankees anymore. I apologize. I forgot he's not with the Yankees anymore. But if you throw a heavy ball, though, that's where your ground balls come in, your pop-ups come in, because it's a different way to hit the ball. It's a very different type of baseball, but it's going to take a generation. You've been telling kids you have to throw 97 to get in the majors, which is a complete and total joke. Now you're telling kids, no, you actually have to know how to pitch.
You better get
in the majors.
Baseball better hire Greg Maddux to go to every spring training camp to start teaching these guys, okay, this is how you set up a batter.
Right.
These are the pitches you need to have.
Do you think this rule is actually going to go into place?
I don't like the rule, but I'd like to see it in the minor leagues.
Here's another rule that Rob Manfred is putting in place. He's changing the roster where it's still going to be a 26-man roster, but you can only have 12 pitchers instead of 13 now. He's really trying to force baseball's hand now.
He's doing the right thing.
You have to do this. And I think he's going to, and I think that's the trick that you have to do. You have to keep lowering the number of pitchers that you have. 12, when I was growing up even, was a lot of pitchers to have on a roster.
I think when I was growing up, it was 10-man. 10-man pitching rotations.
5 starters, 5 relievers.
Yeah.
That's all you truly need. And when you got into the playoffs, it became a 4-man starting rotation, and then that 5th guy would go into the bullpen for later in, because your 5th man is your best reliever.
It's your long reliever.
Yeah, that's what he is. And you just use him to give the other pitchers a break. Normally you call it a loss. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, that, or if he really was a good 5th starter, he could come in if a guy was struggling or had pitched 2 days ago,
right,
and you're starting him again. He was there to come in the 5th inning to get you the rest of the way.
Right. That's the issue, too, I think you're going to have with this rule is the playoff time, because you are pitching guys on short rest. If you have somebody in short rest in the playoffs, you're doing that expecting him to go 5. You're not expecting him to go 6 or 7.
I admired Manfred for trying this. I really do. It's the best thing he's ever done, because it acknowledges the fact that starting pitchers, the innings have gone down and gone down and gone down.
Yeah.
And
he's starting to undo the disaster Selig left him with.
Counsel.
That's one of the disasters Selig left him with.
Well,
Selig destroyed baseball.
I don't think he had as much to do with this pitching thing. I think it was the managers just trying to get guys to throw. For some reason, all the coaches fell in love with 95, 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
A good manager wouldn't. You don't have to
Selig
throw
allowed
that
this
fast.
to happen. Selig convinced Major League Baseball that the hitter is the star of baseball, and you need good hitters to draw fans.
I'm not putting this all on.
That's what he did.
I'm not putting this all on Selig.
It's Selig's fault. You don't have to. I'll do it.
I know. You'll do it every time.
This is all Selig's fault. All of it. He used his own team as an example of why small market teams can't be in baseball without revenue sharing.
Can't argue about that.
Destroyed his own team, his hometown team, destroyed them just for a political point. He allowed the steroid era to happen and then turned his back on the players. He caused the strike in 1994, which led to all this.
Back it up.
Selig ruined baseball.
Don't forget, Selig takes part of the responsibility. Don Fehr takes the other half.
Because he poked the bear. Don Fehr's job is to take care of the players, and they put Selig in specifically because said, no, we're not going to do anything with you on any of this. We're not coming to the table. We're just going to shut down baseball.
Baseball's union was the strongest and actually also led because Selig did try to get testing for a long time for steroids. Fehr would have none of it. And it wasn't until the players themselves went to Don Fehr and said, this ends now.
Selig knew that he could have come out and yelled at the top of his lungs, these records don't count because steroids are in the game.
He should have.
And he didn't. He allowed it to happen. He celebrated it happening. He was there for Bond's record-breaking home run for all of them.
And he turned his back on his best friend, who was Henry Aaron, by the way. They were very tight.
Turned completely on him. And it's Selig's fault for allowing it to become what it is. This could have been swept under the rug. It could have been fine. He could have saved baseball, and instead, he is responsible.
He's not responsible for
the sport.
He's not responsible.
I could have a whole hour conversation about this. Let's do a documentary on this. Bud Selig ruined baseball. You have the team that never won, or what if Raleigh Fingers didn't get hurt, and I'll have Bud Selig ruined baseball.
Okay. I want to know what the viewers think.
You let us know what you think in the comments below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. We have talked a lot about the player that holds the ball the most being the star of the game. Now let's talk about that same type of player, but in a different sport in the NFL.
Yes. So I was watching something the other day talking about how the 2020 draft could, in fact, be the best quarterback draft ever. 5 guys got their second contract.
Yep.
Doesn't happen.
Nope.
Then we had this year's draft. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Penix Jr., Drake May, J.J. McCarthy.
Yep.
They're talking. I want to know, what do you think? Now that we've had a couple preseason games, McCarthy's out for the year.
Yep.
Drake May is with the Patriots.
He's looked all right.
He's with the Patriots.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Poor
guy.
How the tides turn quickly.
Yes.
On the Patriots. I mean, can you imagine saying that 5 years ago? Now we're like, poor guys on the Patriots. Before, people were begging to get drafted by the Patriots.
Belichick did not do well for the drafts. He didn't draft for the future. It was all about win now, win now, win now. Anyways, of the guys you've seen, who do you think is going to be the best pro so far?
Bo Nix.
I'm right there with you. He looks so good.
I still think Penix Jr. has a chance to be that guy.
But he's not going to start for 2 years.
He's not, and he shouldn't. I mean,
Right.
Seeing him play the last little bit, he needs some time to develop, and the Falcons understood what they were doing, and they're doing it right.
They're following the Packer plan.
Bo Nix looks like a star.
Bo Nix, he got the right coach.
Yeah, he did.
Because Sean Payton knows how to call for quarterbacks. Yeah. Heard something today that he was working them out in their private workout. Had the interview, everything was fine. Then he had him throw. The kid threw 16 passes, and he looked at his GM and said, "This is the guy."
Well, and he's letting him throw in preseason. You don't normally see that from rookie quarterbacks in the preseason. He is looking absolutely outstanding, and he's looking like the best of the bunch.
And granted, he was playing Packers second string, and the Packers were playing very base defenses.
They're still learning their defense.
But Nix was checking down.
Yeah.
And
he looks great.
He had control. Caleb Williams looked good.
Yes, but he's doing a lot of running around back there, and he's getting away with it with second stringers.
Jaden Daniels.
He needs time.
He's going to be the starter, though. Made some unbelievable passes.
He's going to have a rough year.
He also contradicted his coach.
Yeah.
He audibled out as a preseason rookie.
Which is great.
He's
going to be good. He needs time. J.J. McCarthy, I didn't think he looked as good as other people thought in the preseason. I saw that one pass that people were going nuts over. It's like, that hung in the air forever.
Yeah, and
that hung in the air more than a Barry Bonds home run. I mean, that was just there for a long time.
We don't talk about Barry Bonds or his home runs on this show.
He's the all-time home run king.
He is not. Henry Aaron is.
And the single-season home run king.
Henry Aaron and Aaron Judge.
Maris. I was going to say, don't say Maris.
Aaron Judge. I'll give him that. Anyways, getting back to football. They've all looked good. They've had their moments. I heard something on Cowherd today that I really disagree with. He was saying, in the case of Drake May, put him in there and go. And in my mind, I have 2 words for him. David Carr.
Yeah.
You put some of these guys who are on a bad team.
It depends on the offensive line you have, though. It has nothing to do with the bad team necessarily. I agree with him in the fact that could be really good for a quarterback.
Again, if you're a bad team, odds are you have a bad offensive line.
That's the trick, though. I mean, if he's going to be shoveling himself up off the ground all the time and going to get sacked 77 times 2 years in a row like David Carr did, well, that's a problem because you don't want to shake the kid's confidence either. But if you can give him time in the pocket, which he did have in the second preseason game.
Playing against second and third teamers.
I agree. Jacoby Brissett is but the problem is he hasn't looked very good either.
No.
So I get what he's saying. The issue again, though, is your offensive line. If your offensive line is not strong enough to protect him, then you don't put him in the game. If your offensive line is strong enough to keep him on his feet, then let him go. Let him learn.
That happens rarely on bad teams.
Peyton Manning had it happen to him, and he had an offensive line that kept him upright long enough, and he learned.
And he threw more interceptions that year than anybody in the league.
And then became one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Granted, but he was rushed, and they had a decent team around him from the start that grew with him.
It did.
Because Manning was never that mobile.
He wasn't. They had to build up that offensive line, and they did. So that's the question, is how's your offensive line? If the offensive line is sound, I agree with him, and I think it's good. If the offensive line is not good, then no, you do not start him.
The majority of these teams, because, Washington's just rebuilding.
Bo Nix, what do you think about Denver? I mean, Denver needs to build up top down.
Denver has some skill players.
And they do. I think Sutton's going to have a hell of a year with Bo Nix, and I'm really upset that I didn't get him in my fantasy draft. He was drafted 2 picks ahead of me.
Sorry.
I was very sad. But he's going to have a hell of a year. Bo Nix looks like the real deal. He looks really does.
Close to Drew Brees as I've seen.
I have to give credit where credit's due with Caleb Williams, though. Caleb Williams has looked really good in the preseason. Now, I said I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year this year. It's a matter of when all of a sudden the team around him starts to not play as well. How's that going to look?
Well, and from what I've heard, though, he's been humble in the locker room.
Yeah,
the guys really like him because his work ethic has been off the charts.
They haven't been losing.
I know. Well,
that's what I want to see what happens, because we saw him losing at USC and he was crying with his mom.
True.
And I'm not blaming anybody for crying. If you lose a Super Bowl, especially in a close game, and you don't cry, there's a problem with you. But to cry on a bad team like that in college, that's a different ballgame to me. Like,
we're going to find out. I think Bo Nix.
We'll see what happens when the Bears start to lose. That's what I want to see.
The Bears, I think, have a chance to be middle of the pack this year. But I don't think they're going to be good enough to save Eberflus's job. I really don't.
They better, because you can't do what you've been doing for the Bears for the last 1,000 years. You can't go from coach to coach to coach and expect a quarterback to develop.
It's the Bears, the Bears.
I know, but you signed. Everybody keeps telling me. I see it in the comments. I hear it in the news. It's a different Bears organization. Well, if you bring in a new quarterback with the same coach, and then you fire him a year later because the team doesn't perform when you're building that team, then you're the same Bears, and you're going to see the same results with Caleb Williams time and time again. You're going to do it over and over and over. You are not firing Eberflus after this year. I don't care if they win one game. You have to have consistency with the quarterback.
He's going to be gone if they win one game.
You can't do it. You can't.
You can say that all you want.
Fire a guy with a rookie quarterback. You can't.
The Bears will.
They are,
because this
designed at the hip.
This is second quarterback for him.
It is.
And he ruined one.
Well, he didn't. Nagy ruined him. Nagy ruined his confidence. And then Eberflus was a first-year coach trying to figure it out with his quarterback. And you said, nope, we're going to give you somebody new. And that's great. That's fine and dandy. But you can't then go into his second year with a new quarterback and say, nope, we're done with you because it was a bad season. It didn't turn out how we want to. You're never going to win that way.
Well, it's doing what San Francisco did to Alex Smith.
Right. And what the Bears have done to every single quarterback. You did it to Mitch Trubisky. You did it to Justin Fields. The only time you had consistency with coach and quarterback was Lovie Smith and Jay Cutler, and you made it to an NFC championship doing that.
Until Cutler got on his bicycle.
That's a different ball game.
Said, I'm hurt.
It's a different ball game. That was also, by the way, the Bears' fault. You left him out to dry on that bike. If you're not putting him back in that game, you keep him in the locker room. That was the Bears' fault on that one. Jay Cutler getting on that bike was ridiculous, but if anything, get him out of his pads. Don't have him sitting there on in his pads on a bike and then not put him back in the game. Like, way to leave someone out to dry. Yeah. Again, it's the Bears being the Bears. So if the Bears are going to be the Bears, then Caleb Williams is going to turn out. You have to have consistency here, but he's looked good in the preseason. I want to see what he does when they're losing.
Again, the Bears ownership has been the same since 1919.
Yes.
However, this part of the family has done the Bears no favor, and I think the fact that they're probably going to sell may be a good thing for the organization long term.
Every Bears fan agrees with you. Every single Bears fan. They're tired of the McCaskey family. They want to move on.
Virginia's got to pass away, and she's 118 years old.
she's
still here.
She is. Hey, God bless her, man.
Yeah.
I like her because I'm a Packer fan. And it's been great on this side of the table. I'm excited. Most wins in history because the Bears have sucked so bad over the last little bit here. I think the Packers could. How far away are they are they from 1,000 wins now? What are we at? 973? It's getting close. It's a race to 1,000. Hold on. Most wins. You continue to talk about it. Drake May, or not Drake May. Bo Nix, though, could be the real deal.
He could be. He could be the rookie of the year if it happens. When he looks this up, we're going to talk about something else that has been going around in the NFL for the last several years. And that's, is it time to go to 18 games and just get rid of the preseason or reduce it to 1 or 2 games and just call it a day, because guys get more work out of their joint practices than they do in the preseason games themselves.
Okay, that's a dumb take, and I'm gonna tell you why. I was way off. They're at $7.99. They're nowhere close. $7.99. Bears are at $7.93.
They only played like 10 games, 12 games for a long time.
My bad. Way off on my side.
Now let's get back to the 18 games.
Dumb. Getting rid of preseason is more dumb than that. That is the stupidest thing you've said.
I didn't say it. Number one, it was the NFL that's going to do this. It's going to happen because the NFL wants to push the Super Bowl closer to March so that they get another month covered.
If anything, you have to move the season up.
No.
You're going to dilute your own game.
They play 17 now.
And I think that's diluting the game. I think that what they're going to see, because they have games on Christmas Day, even though it's not on Sunday, I honestly think that that's going to be some of the lowest rated games in the NFL in a long time.
Wasn't last year.
But it wasn't. It was, what day? It was Monday, right? Christmas was Monday or
Something
Sunday.
like that.
So it's a different scenario there. You're doing it now when Christmas is in the middle of the week. I'm sorry, but people are going to look at that and say, I'm going to spend time with my family.
Look.
Thanksgiving, they've made it a tradition.
You and I can agree on the fact
Christmas Day was Monday night. That's football. People are used to football.
You and I can agree to the fact that the NFL is not doing this or even cares about player safety anymore.
Because they never have.
I know, but that was always the line they use. They don't obviously care because 18 games is a lot in the NFL.
And you can't get rid of the preseason. You need the preseason.
They're going to reduce it to 2 games. 2 games.
You don't allow hitting in practice anymore.
I know.
Even these joint practices are in shorts. You don't allow hitting in practices. At some point, somebody has to get used to being hit before they just go into a game and just get hit by a semi-truck.
Here's the argument I've heard forever that the NFL uses. Well, college doesn't have preseason at all.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Really? Well, how do they have preseason?
They play against the little sisters of the poor every single year.
There's always 1 or 2 of those on everybody. The big guys.
Wisconsin plays some random school. Ohio State plays some Ohio school.
That's state law.
I get it. They have their warm-up games, though. And they go into that's their first live really practice. Let's call it what it is. Live competition, at least. And they are so much better than the team they're facing. They have a preseason. And they also allow more hitting in practices than the NFL does. You can't go in with no hitting the way that you do and then expect people not to get hurt.
But it's player safety. Guys could get hurt if they had hitting in practice.
No.
The NFL.
That's dumb. You have to get used to it. It's basically like going into a gym and just saying right away, I'm going to lift 300 pounds. You may lift 300 pounds. I can bench 300 pounds. But I'm not going in cold and just lifting 300 pounds. I'm going to do bar, and then I'm going to put 45s on it. I'm going to work my way up and then get my max rep.
Bottom line is this will happen whether you like it or not. There will be an 18-game season. Again, this is the
You're
NFL.
2 bye weeks.
Yes, there will be. The NFL is master marketers. They're the greatest at it.
They are.
Goodell has proven, if nothing else, he knows how to make money.
Yeah, that's great.
They're trying to get this to the end of February because it'll be a little bit warmer, whatever, yada, yada, yada. So they're now only going to be, a month between the end of the season and free agency, and then you've got the draft.
We're going right into March Madness is what you're doing. It's Super Bowl and it's March Madness.
Yeah, the calendar, they're looking to milk the calendar as much as they can, and they will do it.
I just think you're diluting your sport at that point.
You're not diluting it. They're not at, they're talking. They want to add teams too,
because
which I
less
think is ridiculous.
games matter. Less games matter.
Yeah, if there were 12, 13, 14 games, the product on the field would be way better.
People like college football from the word go because every game matters from the word go. In the NFL, if you have 18 games, the first 4 games just don't matter. You can go 0-4 and still go on a run and make the playoffs.
Well, what have we always talked about, and what does everybody talk about? The season in the NFL doesn't start until Thanksgiving Day.
Well, and here's the thing, too, is okay, say you get rid of preseason games. Well, those first couple games are just going to be sloppy games.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to hurt in those first couple of games. They just are. You cannot go in cold the way that the NFL allows these people to even go into preseason cold and then expect people not to get hurt. You're just going from 0 to 100 immediately. And that's how people get hurt.
Speaking of going in cold, did you watch the Bronco-Packer game last week?
Yeah, parts of it. I mean, it's preseason,
I watched it.
which I guess kind of goes away from my argument, but
Yeah.
that's not for viewership. That's to get your team ready.
It's also for viewership. I'm sorry. I watched the Packers. I'm a diehard fan. That was an ugly performance, even if it was number 2. They've got a lot of work to do. And from what I heard,
They didn't play any starter.
from what I heard in the joint practices where starters were participating, they were lackadaisical and they weren't performing well. Packers may not be as good as people talk about.
But again, that goes to my point. They're lackadaisical because of practice.
Well, then I shame on LaFleur. You should show up and practice hard because you're trying to get ready.
You're
for the
not going to
season.
show everything. You're just not. And the Packers are learning a new defense, a completely new defense. They're transitioning from a 3-4 back to a 4-3.
Love was not looking good.
Okay, he's just getting back into the swing of things. The Packers, when they won the Super Bowl, went 0-4 in the preseason.
I get it.
I mean, I really don't care what they look like now. I just want them getting ready and getting warm and getting ready to be hit. They're going to come in. The first couple games with that new defense is not going to look pretty. It's just not. It's a brand new scheme with older players and newer players trying to find their place. I'm not worried about this.
I've got this much concern about it because something doesn't feel right about this team.
Yeah, I'm not worried about a preseason performance when the Broncos are playing all of their starters and we're playing barely our 2s.
If we're supposed to be one of the best teams in the league, our 2s should be better than their number 1s in some cases.
No. Tell me where in the NFL a 2 is better than a 1. They're all NFL players. That doesn't happen.
Just saying, I'm a little concerned.
Your best 2s are starters on the worst teams.
I'm just saying, I'm concerned.
It's a new That's a stupid thing.
No, it's not.
It is.
It is not a stupid take because the number 2s often are playing in the year. They're just they're playing
right with the ones.
And
again, it's a new scheme.
On defense, yes.
They're getting used to it. The offense looked fine. Well, no, it didn't.
Yeah,
but that was the quarterback's fault. With Love in there, they look great. They scored a touchdown. First time. 3 plays, touchdown.
If Love goes down, and pray to God he doesn't go down,
we're in trouble.
We're beyond trouble.
That's how it was with Rodgers, too. Rodgers goes down.
I'm concerned.
We're in trouble.
I'm a Packer fan. It's part of my nature. I'm concerned.
For what?
Because I didn't like what I saw. There was a lack of effort.
It wasn't a lack of effort. It's just we had a number 2 team versus number 1 starters in an NFL game.
You can say that if you want.
That's what I expect to happen.
Okay. You can be the god of preseason games. I'm still concerned. I didn't like what I saw at all.
Why?
Because they just weren't present in the game. They did not do anything right.
They were definitely present. They looked terrible because it was if that was our number 1 team, yeah, I'd be really, really worried. We were going to be a bad team. That was our number 2s, and our number 2s weren't in there very long. And then when number 3s, they're just trying to figure out who they're going to keep on the team and who they're going to cut. Our running backs aren't going to make the team. The running backs playing in that game are our practice squad running backs. We had a quarterback start the game that's probably not going to make our team. And he played the entire first half.
Michael Pratt's probably going to be the backup.
Right. Like, what are we talking about here?
I'm still concerned.
We're talking about a preseason game where none of our starters played.
Okay, says the guy who has had 30 years of nothing but winning Packer teams.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I did not have that.
We had 2 losing seasons.
Oh, poor baby. I had 20.
Although our
4-win
season with Brett Favre throwing 27 interceptions, while frustrating, it was fun to watch.
Let's talk about another team going back who hasn't done much since the mid-90s.
Okay. You talking Cowboys? America's team?
They are not America's team. They are not anymore.
Greatest marketer of all time.
Well, yeah. That was Tex Schramm, who just tagged them with that because nobody else had. Good for him.
That was brilliant.
At that time, you had Roger Staubach as your quarterback, Navy veteran.
All-American team.
All-American guy. Call it what you want. Packers are America's team now. They have been forever. Let's be honest. But
Cowboys fans don't like us because of you saying that. Just wanted to let you know.
Truth sometimes hurts. Packers are America's team. Dallas was in the 70s. Maybe even in the early 90s you could claim it, but no, they're not anymore.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm just saying they don't like us now.
I'm glad they watch. I'm glad they watch. Anyways, I think Dallas's problem is not CeeDee Lamb. It's not Mike McCarthy, who is a good coach.
Yeah.
Their problem has been and is Jerry Jones. He is a cheap owner.
Cheap owner?
He should have paid CeeDee Lamb weeks ago. He doesn't make good personnel decisions. He never leaves his coach alone, with one exception. When Jimmy Johnson was there and Jimmy told him out.
And he fired him for it.
Yeah. After he won him 2 or 3 Super Bowls.
2.
3.
2.
Barry Switzer coached it. It was all Jimmy's guys.
Okay.
But he did still have to coach it.
Switzer coached it.
I'm not saying he didn't. It was Jimmy's guys. Anyways, ever since then, and when I think the tuna, when Bill Parcells was there, he was in control. And
For a little bit.
And they had a good run. Jerry Jones is a de facto GM, head coach, PR guy. He needs to shut up, and he never does. He owns a team. He doesn't have to.
Why would he?
Because
they're always in the news. Do you know how much money Jerry Jones has made being a Cowboys owner?
Does he want to make?
He is the greatest marketer of all time.
Does he want to make the money, or does he want to win on the field?
He wants to make the money.
Well, and then you're getting what you want.
Yeah.
Because they haven't done anything since the mid '90s. Jerry Jones is your problem in Dallas. I'm sorry.
It's hard to say a guy who built a Coliseum and has sold it out to every single venue. It is the most popular venue in the country.
Jerry's World is a showcase. It's a show place. It's beautiful. I get all that. I'm talking about Cowboy fans who really would rather have a win and play in the Cotton Bowl than continue to lose and watch Jerry make money hand over fist.
Probably. Sometimes nice not to have an owner, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, yeah, the issue is he's not a football guy. Never was a football guy.
He thinks he was.
He wasn't. He was an oil baron.
Yes.
And bought the team, sold his business, bought the team, won 2 Super Bowls with it. But he's not a football guy. He's just not.
You would think after
time and time again.
You would think after all these years he would be.
No, because to be a football guy, because the best football guys listen to their scouts. They hire good scouts. They listen to their scouts that have seen the players play. They build a good team around them. And Jerry Jones just likes to make the call. And if you think about it, him making the call cost them Randy Moss.
Yes.
That was a miss.
Mm-hmm.
Cost them Jerry Rice.
Yep.
Also a miss.
You think?
Sometimes he overthinks himself in the draft a little bit there.
He was going to draft
Johnny Manziel. He didn't, though. You got to give him credit. He didn't. He had a chance to. He was on the board. He didn't take him.
One time he listened to his son, who, by the way, I do think does a decent job as the de facto GM.
Jerry Jones isn't going anywhere. And you're stuck with them. I mean, that's just, what do you want me to say?
Jerry Jones is in his, upper 70s?
Something like
80s?
That. Yeah, he's an older guy.
There should be some lessons learned.
He's at the age where you run for president.
Pretty much. I just think go and get a real GM or get a really good coach that can be a GM. I feel bad for Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, he just sits there like this with his arms folded now. The problem with the Cowboys is not with Mike McCarthy. And I will say this. I said it 6-8 weeks ago. I'll say it again. Your next head coach is going to be Deion Sanders.
Could be.
It's not going to be Belichick.
You got to get Shador as your quarterback. That's got to happen. I don't think Deion and Jerry are going to get along as anybody else. I mean, I think that's a silly move, but it's a great marketing move. So that makes sense that Jerry would do that.
Deion would have to have complete player personnel control. Right. I don't think Jerry would ever give that up, but I still think he's going to hire him.
Primetime needs to win at Colorado first.
That would be a good step.
He has yet to do that.
He won 4 games last year. Granted,
most exciting 4-game win streak in college football history.
And the cheapest shot that took away is
Travis Hunter.
I was going to say Hunter Travis. And I'm like, no, it's not that.
Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
It was
that's what ruined their season.
Oh, God, yeah. You put Travis Hunter on that team.
Yeah, Jerry Jones is definitely a problem in Dallas if you consider football a problem. Then, yeah, I mean, he doesn't always make good football decisions, but they have a winning team right now. I mean, you can't blame Jerry Jones for choking in the playoffs. He clearly built a team that gets to the playoffs.
They get to a certain
has
extent.
one of the best defensive players on his team with one of the best defensive staffs. He has one of the best wide receivers in the game right now and a quarterback that's played extremely well over his career.
And before that, they had
He
Tony
constantly
Romo.
builds teams that goes to the playoffs, so you can't really say he's the problem when you don't win in the playoffs. If you have a team built to go to the playoffs, then it's a crapshoot. Then it's coaching and it's players executing that coaching. That's not Jerry Jones' fault.
I think it's
Jerry Jones consistently builds teams that win.
Jerry undermines his coach.
How many times have the Cowboys had a top 10 pick in Jerry Jones' era?
Fine.
He constantly builds teams that
undermines his coach.
It's the same thing with the Packers. When you get to the playoffs and have a consistently winning team, at some point your coaches and players have to execute. The Dallas Cowboys continue to make it to the playoffs, so clearly Jerry Jones isn't building bad teams.
He's putting teams on that will win a certain amount of games when they get to the playoffs.
Okay, that's not Jerry Jones' fault. You can't say I'm undermining coaches when you continuously build a team that wins.
They win, but
what do you want more from a GM?
I want Jerry Jones to hire a good GM that will build him something.
He is a good GM. He continuously builds teams that win. I know he's picking on him.
Jerry's mouth gets him in trouble more times than it bails him out of trouble. I just think he's an overarching presence on that team, and that team has done nothing since the mid-'90s. Nothing.
They had a bad streak there after the 90s era ended, for sure. But again, he consistently builds teams that goes to the playoffs. He consistently builds winning teams.
I'm not arguing that. He gets them to a certain point, but that's
not Jerry's fault.
Always missing something that's going to get them over the top.
That's not Jerry's fault. That's not Jerry Jones' fault.
Jerry
Jones' responsibility as the GM is to put a team on the field that can win, and they do.
If he would do that and then walk away and let his coaches coach, that'd be great. But he doesn't do that either. He's always with the coaches and messing with them, and he undermines his coaches.
I don't think messing is the exact word you're looking for there.
He undermines them.
How?
By letting players go and talk to him directly, by listening to other people and just kind of isolating his coach.
The players being able to go to Jerry is a different conversation, okay? But at the same time, this guy continuously builds teams that win.
Okay.
He constantly has receivers that are performing extremely well.
Sure.
He consistently has a quarterback that's built to win.
Do they have that wide receiver in the house and playing at this point?
They have CeeDee Lamb. They haven't signed him yet.
They could have signed him weeks ago.
They could have, and that's a mistake. But, dude, we watched Devontae Adams get walked out of the building.
Well, and we ripped Gutekunst for that. I'm not arguing that. I mean, I'm talking about Dallas right now.
Every team has that. Look what San Francisco's doing with Brandon Ayuk right now.
Dallas is the guy.
That's just the business side of the game.
I get it. Dallas is always, it's more about Jerry than it is about the star. And they always say it's about the star. No, it's not. It's about Jerry.
It is in his mind. Yeah. For sure. But I'm just saying, if you look at Jerry Jones' track record for drafting good talent, he's consistently drafting good talent.
Is it him that's doing it, or is he actually?
He's the GM.
His son has been doing it for the last few years.
Well, that's fine. Then his son's a great GM. He's listening to his son, which is a great thing an owner does. But I'm just saying, throughout Jerry's time, except for a small window in the late 90s, the Cowboys have had winning teams.
But they've never gotten close to back.
That's not Jerry's fault.
I'm going to put a lot of it on Jerry.
If you build a team that can make it to the playoffs, it is up to the coaches and the players to take it the rest of the way.
Everything I hear from listening to Cowboy fans is the coaches are always feeling like they don't have control.
Okay, we're talking about Cowboys fans who are the most emotional fans on the face of the earth.
Kyle said that, by the way.
It's true. It's nothing against them. They're very emotional fans. I think that's great. They're tied in with their team. That's not something I'm saying against Cowboy fans, but that's a reaction. They've been calling for Jerry.
It sounds like you've been.
They have been calling for Jerry Jones' head.
I don't want Jerry.
Jimmy Johnson was fired.
I don't want Jerry to sell the team. I really don't. He's been a great owner, with the exception that
he's been a great GM.
With the exception of trying to get rid of the shared revenue between the teams, which would have been a disaster.
It would have been. He wants that because then he
makes more.
He makes more because he's built a money-making machine. I'm just saying, if you look at the Cowboys' records over the last little bit, they're consistently making the playoffs.
They've been 12-5, 12-5, 12-5.
Even if you go before that, they're consistently a playoff contender every single year.
And yet they're not signing Dak. They aren't going to sign him. He's going to go someplace else and play.
He is.
And they're not signing CD Lamb.
That's a mistake. They'll get that done. He's still under contract.
Yeah, but he's not going to come in and play until he gets a new contract.
They're going to have to work it out.
He's got to work it out. Okay, and we're going to have another wide receiver who hasn't had any preseason. He's going to come in. He'll get hit.
You said that's not a bad idea.
I never said it was a bad idea. I said bring him in. You should have brought him in weeks ago.
I'm just saying, you say no preseason games.
I'm just saying what the NFL. That's what the NFL is going to do. They'll still have 2.
I'm just saying, like, if you look at Jerry Jones draft and develop from all of his players and the teams he puts on the field consistently, you can't with good faith say he's a bad GM. We've seen bad GMs. Look what Chicago's done. Look what Detroit did for years. Look at all these teams. The Raiders have had bad GMs. If you look at what Jerry Jones has consistently done year after year, is he consistently builds winning teams.
I want Jerry to keep doing what he's doing. I really do, because I don't like the Cowboys. And I like beating them.
I understand that, but you can't tell me. I've been hearing it from Cowboys fans forever that Jerry Jones is this problem, right? And yet they consistently have winning teams. They're consistently in the conversation for playoffs. They're consistently in the conversation for Super Bowls.
Hold on. But what happens when he gives control over to a real football guy? The last time he did it,
he had one of the greatest of all time.
Right.
Okay. But if you look at Jerry Jones says, listen, I can do this. And he's proven that he can. He consistently builds winning teams. You don't hold that same stature from if you take Jerry Jones and what he's been able to do with that team and give it to any other GM, teams sing his praises for how well he's done.
We're going to agree to disagree. Yes, he's gotten some good talent. He's gotten good coaches. I still think underlying and undermining those coaches is one of the reasons they don't get to the promised land.
No, he doesn't give the coaches complete and total control of a team that he's built.
Like I said.
No team does. The GM always has final say
Bill Belichick.
On the players. Bill Belichick was the GM and the coach. It's a different storyline. And you said yourself earlier in the show that it cost them in the long run when Tom Brady left.
Sure. Well, he left because
the team was falling apart.
Team was falling apart around him.
I'm just saying, it baffles me that people continuously bash Jerry Jones as a GM when all he has done is continuously build great rosters. Every year they're in a conversation for possibly going to the Super Bowl. Every single year.
And yet they don't win in the playoffs.
I just think people are blaming the wrong guy. I have no issues with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, if you're listening to this, I think you're an outstanding GM because all you've done is build great teams. And I'm tired of people saying he doesn't do that because he does. His track record's there. His track record has always been there. He found Tony Romo as an undrafted free agent, and it became his starter for years.
Wait a minute. Tony Romo was a product of the coach at the time. He was a free agent that walked into camp.
He hired a great coach. He brought in a player that knew would fit his system.
How many Super Bowls did they win with Tony Romo?
He kept getting hurt, and then he fumbled once. I'm just saying, though, but again, how is that Jerry Jones' fault? How is it Jerry Jones' fault?
Jerry Jones.
You know what I love about Jerry Jones more than anything? And I'm going to be honest with this. What do I always say if I am the GM of a team? What's the first thing I do? Build an offensive line. What did Jerry Jones do? He said, listen, we might be not great for the next couple of years, but we're going to build up this offensive line and have a great team.
That's what Jimmy Johnson did, you mean?
No, that's what Jerry Jones did in the 2010s. And it's the reason they're as good as they are now because they had 3 Hall of Fame offensive linemen on that line that he drafted and developed. That is a testament to Jerry Jones doing things the right way and have a consistently winning team.
When the owner is bigger than the coaches or the players, you got a problem.
When the owner consistently builds a great team,
we're getting circular.
That's not the problem.
We're circular in this argument.
Because you're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're wrong. I just gave the perfect argument for Jerry Jones, and I'm tired of people giving him shit for no reason.
He blows through coaches.
Because they don't know how to coach the great teams that he builds.
Bull. loses a coach is because he's always interfering and doesn't give them the control they need to do what's necessary to win in the
McCarthy's
playoffs.
had control. McCarthy
No,
has
he
completely
hasn't.
had control over what's going on in the field.
He has not.
He's the coach.
He's the coach, but Jerry
They go
Jones.
12-5, and then they choke in the playoffs. That's not Jerry Jones' fault. That's the players, and that's the coach. A GM is there to build the team. Jerry Jones has consistently built great teams.
The owner can't be bigger than the team or the coach, and Jerry Jones has always put himself in that position, and that's why
If
they
the
lose.
owner is responsible for building great teams, he deserves to be put on the pedestal that he is. He consistently
He will be on the
builds
Ring of
great
Honor someday.
rosters.
He will be on the Ring of Honor, but until he turns over full control and gets out of the
What's gonna
football
happen?
operation,
They're going to lose Jerry Jones, and they're going to go in the tank.
I'm not saying he doesn't need to sell the team.
I'm not saying, but he's going to pass away at some point, right? He's not going to live. Maybe he's immortal. I don't know.
I don't know.
He found the fountain of youth. But I'm just saying, we keep talking about his football acumen. He's not a football guy, and we were joking early on. But if you really think about it, what has he done but build great teams? That's all he's done. You can't blame him for saying, here's this golden roster, and you lose. It's not Jerry Jones' fault.
I want to hear what
You let us know what you think in the comments below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much
I can say that
as we
sometimes.
enjoy making it.
I can say that.
I let you
sometimes.
once, and it ended very badly. As you all know, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word. So it is all you.
Well, let's continue this football talk. So, Oklahoma State is doing something that's never been done before. They're actually putting QR codes on the back of their helmet. I heard this and I thought, this is great. That means they're going to be giving money to St. Jude's, to Wounded Warrior, to Tunnels to Tower, the Boys and Girls Club, something. Nope, not what they're going to do. They're not even being silly and giving it to some social justice charity. They are actually putting that QR code on so people can donate so they can build their NIL fund. College football, you have officially jumped the shark, and other teams are going to follow suit. You're ruining your own game because now they're going to have more money to go and try to rip off other teams who've recruited players. Oklahoma State is never going to have the money Alabama or Ohio State has, and they've been buying their teams for years and years and years. Now with NIL, they can do it legally, and it's just getting worse. The entire college football atmosphere and world needs to be brought back into the fold. Stop putting QR codes on so you can buy your players. And why don't you focus on actually getting players to go there for an education? Yes, they're going to be pro players and they deserve to be paid for their talent. But don't do it this way. NIL and QR codes is ridiculous. I'm cranky today.
I can tell. It's because I proved that your opinion was wrong about Jerry Jones. That's what I think it is.
You didn't prove a thing.
Thank you so much, as always, for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.